So practice what you preach. Ideal. Oh, she
Gets to scream now, too.
why is she leaving? I'm
Gonna answer her questions.
I will.
Oh, okay, I got it. Well, thank you for coming. Are you guys kidding me? I mean, is this the Foreign Affairs Committee or is this like a circus? What is this?
2 days on Capitol Hill in Washington. There's no such thing as the most outrageous, only more outrageous. The intense grilling in Congress was just the tip of the iceberg, as you just saw. As the chief diplomat of the administration, Secretary Blinken faced 4 consecutive hearings in just 48 hours. What's even more remarkable is the stark contrast in his demeanor between the Senate and the House. In the Senate, he played it like Tai Chi. No matter how hard they pressed, he remained calm and unmoved. But in the House, he took off his jacket and transformed into a tough, iron-blooded figure. He went all in. So why today? We're going to give you a one-stop highlight reel of the most iconic moments from the past 2 days of the cabinet showdown. Let's see how Democratic Party lawmakers, in order to humiliate the cabinet, came up with some truly absurd and laughable political stunts. We'll also look at how the government team responded with both toughness and wisdom, and even accidentally exposed the other side's weaknesses. These include questions like, does Trump actually sleep? And what about the Iran war gifts from Trump? When it comes to hearing about how the Trump administration actually opened up the Strait of Hormuz, let's first take a look at this segment about Trump's tax policy.
Thank you, Secretary Rubio, for being here today. You have attended multiple meetings with President Trump. In a moment, I'm going to show you a video from one of these meetings. It's from last December, a cabinet meeting. I'm going to ask you to focus on President Trump, and you will see that he is sleeping while you are talking. Please play the video.
The products they make and what American farmers grow and produce deserve a fair chance to be sold around the world, and that's been the case on issue after issue. You talk about foreign aid reforms. This isn't our money, it's taxpayer money.
Secretary Rubio, have you been at more than one meeting where President Trump has fallen asleep?
That's false, that's false. I've never seen him fall asleep. On the contrary, the guy doesn't sleep, which is a big problem because he calls me at 2 in the morning, he calls me at 5 in the morning, and you know, I like to sleep a little bit, maybe not 12 hours, but at least 6, so he works. The other day, he was at the Oval Office, Rubio, 12:30 p.m. at 12:30 a.m. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm going to show you in a moment a video that proves you just lied to Congress.
Oh, okay.
So this is a video of a cabinet meeting, literally from last month, where Donald Trump is sleeping while you are talking. Please show this video.
A coalition of countries that line up behind the peace deal, behind the Board of Peace, and it's still an hour every day as a challenge, but it's been driven personally by the president. It's the reason why we're involved in this whole Ukraine-Russia conflict. That's not our war. It's not the president's war. This war started. It never would have happened if you'd been president. But this war is going on, and the president is trying to end it.
You're literally talking about issues of war and peace, and Donald Trump is sleeping right next to you. If Donald Trump cannot stay awake at these important meetings where the cameras are rolling, imagine what he's like when the cameras are not there. So I'm going to ask you, have you been at classified meetings where Donald Trump has fallen asleep, staying away? I've
never been in any meeting. We're fine. And the things they're showing me now, he was not falling asleep. So it appears you are lying once again. You are consistently lying to Congress about sleep.
You're lying to Congress, Secretary Rubio.
This is California Democratic Congressman Ted Lieu, who is famously anti-Trump. And this is happening in the House Foreign Affairs Committee. There are so many major foreign affairs issues in the world. Iran's missiles are still flying, the Middle East is so volatile, and during such a crucial cabinet-level hearing, he actually spends his time using a magnifying glass to study whether the president was dozing off in a meeting. Isn't that just ridiculous? Rubio even accused him of committing the serious crime of deceiving Congress. All I can say is that the Democrats, just to prove Trump is unfit for office, have really thrown all sense of decency out the window. Earlier this year, Trump himself was asked about this issue. His initial response was actually quite forceful. He said, "When those unscrupulous people were picking on me, they even took photos of me. That's a bit exaggerated. I don't even believe it." The second version was much better. He said it was just because it was so boring, he was about to fall asleep listening to it. Actually, whether Trump dozed off or not has nothing to do with whether he is clear-headed or fit for the presidency. These are two completely different things. The Democrats want to seize on the moment Trump closed his eyes to lead people to associate it with the idea that he's already muddle-headed. In contrast, as some have said, the president is not only clear-minded, but also full of energy, barely even sleeping. This has indeed been corroborated by some White House reporters. However, as for Trump, the truth is, sigh, I didn't doze off because I was tired or bored by you guys. But no matter how Rubio tries to explain it, this popular opinion leader definitely isn't buying it. In the end, he complained, saying, "Stop having everyone take turns sitting around Trump and talking nonsense." That's it. Hey, this is actually a key point that quite a few Democrats want to use to embarrass Rubio. Another Democratic Congresswoman from California, Sarah Jacobs, set a trap for Rubio as soon as she started. She asked, "Mr. Secretary, who really won the 2020 presidential election?" Rubio was immediately annoyed and said, "I'm not answering campaign questions. This is the Foreign Affairs Committee." Jacobs seized the opportunity and said, "All right, you can't answer."
Okay, great. You can't answer the question, even though we all know that President Biden won.
Because as Secretary of State, I do not participate in domestic. This is not about
Domestic political issues. This is about our democracy. You're being asked.
me to opine, just like I don't do campaigns. It seems like I don't, because as Secretary of State, we're not supposed to. That's been the long tradition of the department. And you should know that if you've been on this committee for any period of time, Mr.
Secretary, it seems like you have an issue admitting facts. You can't say that the president lost the 2020 election, just like you won't admit President Trump is losing this reckless war of choice, and just like you couldn't admit that the shoes the president bought you were too big. You clearly don't know what winning means, and not because the facts are unclear to you. It's because telling your truth, the truth, would cost you your job. And the American people are entitled to a Secretary of State who tells them the truth, even when the president doesn't want to hear it. And my constituents, our service members, deserve better. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Did any of you catch the reference, friends? This is a fashion story about the White House that went viral on X. President Trump had a particular habit. He loved to give his team members a pair of classic Florsheim Imperial leather shoes. These shoes were not expensive, just $145, and almost every top cabinet member had a pair, including the Vice President, the Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, Secretary Haig, and so on. This pair of shoes even became a sort of team badge within Trump's group, so people started talking about it. Whenever everyone attended a meeting with Trump, they would tacitly wear this pair of shoes, which was essentially a kind of middle management pledge of loyalty. But there was a problem. Although everyone received the same pair, the sizes were distributed blindly by Trump to everyone. You see, sometimes people would get photographed and you could tell that the shoes were obviously much longer, maybe 1 or 2 sizes too big. So, as Congressman Jacobs said, even if the shoes don't fit, you wouldn't dare say anything. In fact, it's like a contest of loyalty. Even if the shoes Trump gave you don't fit, you wouldn't dare not wear them, let alone complain. So how did Rubio respond? I don't know what
shoes she's talking about. What is she talking about? Representative Birch, you're recognized. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you'd like to answer any of that, I don't know about the shoe thing. He gave me some floor shoes, and they're actually pretty good. They fit fine. I don't know what she's talking about, and maybe that's what she's referring to.
Your shoes look very nice today, Mr. Secretary.
How can you see them? They're way down here. We're talking about shoes. Are you guys kidding me? I mean, is this the Foreign Affairs Committee, or is this like a circus? What is this?
Speaking of this even more explosive scene, let me first give you some background. On January 3rd of this year, the US military carried out an extraordinary operation in Caracas, the capital of Venezuela. As we all know, by land, sea, and air, they directly took Venezuelan President Maduro and his wife from their home, packed them up, and brought them to New York for prosecution. At that time, Trump said that the United States would take over Venezuela until everything was completely safe, secure, and the regime transition was finished. He also said that the US would take back Venezuela's oil. He claimed that the oil industry there was originally built with American help, but ended up under a socialist regime, calling it one of the biggest property thefts in American history. Going forward, major American oil companies would be allowed in to invest, repair pipelines, and recover the money. So the next issue is about a well-known accusation made by California Democratic Congresswoman Doff regarding this incident. She accused the Trump administration of engaging in secret dark money politics in Venezuela and claimed that Rubio was the mastermind behind the scenes. What is her reasoning? She said, first, 5 months ago, the Trump administration, through sanctions and political intervention, forcibly cut off Maduro's finances. The US Treasury Department, which is overseen by Rubio, essentially became the department controlling the overseas flow of Venezuela's oil and mineral revenues, totaling as much as $1.8 billion. The Democrats sarcastically remarked that this made the U.S. Treasury the new ruler and supreme authority of Venezuela. That's her first reason. Second, she specifically pointed out a person named Mauricio, who is closely associated with Rubio. He was an old close associate from many years ago. Now he manages a private equity fund. This person wants to invest in the U.S., and the Democrats accuse him of not being an official U.S. government employee. But thanks to the privileges granted by Rubio, he has become the current kingmaker in Venezuela. Anyone who wants to buy cheap Venezuelan oil or secure mining contracts has to pay a toll to him. As for this incident itself, since there's so much involved, let's not delve into it for now. But based on these accusations, if you look at the conversation between him and Rubio, you'll see what's so funny about it. Because this wasn't really an inquiry at all. It was just me saying something, you responding, and that's it, right? In the end, it turned into a one-sided political show, just empty talk and bluster. Because this congressman fired off a barrage of questions at an extremely fast pace for 4 minutes. Each congressman only gets 5 minutes. He took up almost all the time and didn't let Rubio speak at all. Whenever Rubio tried to say something, he would interrupt him. For example, Rubio managed to say just a couple of sentences mentioning that the person he brought up was only one of the participants and had no financial ties. But the congressman immediately cut him off, loudly declaring, "I reclaim my time. This is my time." There's really no need to flip the table directly.
You're wrong about how the money flows. It's simple. I'll show.
I'm going to have to reclaim my...
Time again, because what kind of process is this? Do they get to answer questions? Do you...
Don't get to answer. It's my time. The question is about my time, so why am I here if I don't get to answer your question or your founding statements? Reclaiming my...
Time. But I want to reclaim it. I get time because you make these defamatory statements and no one can talk here if you...
Call out corruption in this country like crazy. Then how can you call it out? In a minute, I can't say anything. You won't let me speak. The question is about credibility, and your credibility meter is on empty right now. This oil, these guys who did the talking and I don't get to answer, determines the barrels of oil that get sold. How many of them? Let me answer. I haven't answered your question. Where is it going to go? What is it going to do?
It's their time for me to answer. What is this? You get asked questions for 5 minutes and you don't get time to answer. It's not a hearing, I think.
You said clown show.
It was pretty intense. That congresswoman basically spent the whole 5 minutes firing off at Rubio like a machine gun, leaving him no chance to answer her questions. Then the next congressman had to give up some of his own time so Rubio could respond. Meanwhile, that shouting congresswoman actually started packing up her things to leave. But Rubio said, "Hey, why are you leaving? I still have to answer your questions." She replied, "I'll hear it." Oh, Rubio understood and said, "Thank you for coming." The subtext here is clear to anyone who gets it. You weren't here to listen to my answers. You weren't here for the response. You just came to collect your material. That's it for today, folks. Job done. What you just saw was all from the House hearing, where Rubio was basically under fire from all sides. But things were very different in the Senate. Take a look at this next segment. This is a clip of Cory Booker, the Democratic political star senator from New Jersey, using the current high oil prices and the still blockaded Strait of Hormuz as leverage to press charges. He accuses saying your administration keeps saying on Twitter every day that Iran has been wiped out and the war is over, but what's the result? Now the Strait of Hormuz is still blockaded and ordinary Americans are still watching gas prices rise at the pump. In March, your administration lifted some sanctions on Iran. Pay attention, this is a key point. What happened next, Rubio will clarify later. He says, as a result, not only did Iran not surrender, but instead, thanks to your lifted sanctions, they sold oil to the Chinese Communist Party and made billions of dollars. Now, in order to make them hand over highly enriched uranium, is the United States going to secretly lift sanctions again and send them money? Back then, you made Obama's Iran nuclear deal worthless. And now, facing a deadlock with one of the world's most powerful countries, America is actually begging and pleading for Iran to return to the negotiating table. This is simply a series of defeats. At first glance, this statement seems flawless. But let's see how Rubio responds.
The sanctions that were released on Iran were boats on the water, and so that oil is already out in the marketplace that was sold at market rates. But the sanctions covered, to the extent we've been able to enforce them, we have the revenues of those sales. So yeah, the Iranian oil was unsanctioned so that it could be sold, but the revenue would have to flow back to blocked accounts, which our sanctions were able to go after. We've also seized, I believe, 6 vessels in the Indo-Pacific that involved Iranian-sanctioned oil on top of it. So that wasn't necessarily a trade. They didn't get $50 billion directly as they might have gotten some of it. They certainly get the majority of it. They are now losing hundreds of millions of dollars a day in revenue because of the blockade, and the blockade exists because of what they're doing in the Straits.
Here, there is a very important detail. The Democratic congressman who asked the question was actually following a line of reasoning that sounded like this. In March, because the United States lifted sanctions, Iran was able to sell oil to the Chinese Communist Party and made tens of billions. Now, you want to once again lift sanctions on Iran in exchange for Iran withdrawing from high enrichment activities to get them back to the negotiating table. It almost sounds like the Biden administration is very weak, right? But Rubio clarified, saying that the Biden administration actually did not go easy. What happened was actually a financial settlement operation. The money Iran received from selling oil to the Chinese Communist Party never actually went back to Iran. Iran cannot freely use this money. Instead, it is frozen in a third-party account. Now, with the blockade of the Strait, Iran can no longer export oil, resulting in huge economic losses. If Iran wants to access those funds frozen by the United States, it has to make concessions, such as reducing uranium enrichment or lifting the blockade on its stockpiles. There are many more such details. Whether it's during questioning in the House or in the Senate, there's a lot of fascinating content. If you're interested, let me know in the comments and I'll make more short videos to share with you. So here, I won't go through each point one by one. It's worth mentioning that Rubio's demeanor and reactions in the Senate were worlds apart from those in the House. Why is that? It's not because senators are better looking than representatives. The main reason is that the Senate is Rubio's old stomping ground. He's been a Florida senator for over a decade. Most of the people sitting in the audience were his former colleagues. Plus, in the US, a senator's term lasts 6 years. These political veterans hold established roles and value establishment decorum. Rubio knows their temperaments well. When they criticize him on TV, it's just for show to satisfy their constituents. As long as Rubio doesn't push back, once the session ends, they remain good friends in private. That's why, in the Senate, he has to keep a low profile and use a more Tai Chi-like approach to demonstrate the steady maturity of a responsible government. But it's a different story in the House of Representatives. The House is a battleground for attention. Representatives have to run for election every 2 years, and each one hopes to create dramatic moments on live TV. They're well aware of this. So, if a representative appears weak, they'll be seen as an easy target by their peers in the House. So he decided to take a high-profile approach in another area. Senators hold significant power over financial matters. Although representatives participate in the budget process in the US, senators have tremendous authority when it comes to laws, treaties, and the final appropriations for the State Department. The State Department, led by Rubio, is about to face a budget cut of up to 44%, almost half of its funding. At this point, he absolutely cannot afford to mess up relationships in the Senate. If he were to act as confrontationally as they do in the House, directly clashing at the table, then as a senator, there are plenty of ways in the upcoming budget details to quietly make things difficult. Anyway, after watching the entire questioning session, I have to say the Secretary's performance in Congress was truly impressive. He handled the Democratic lawmakers' tough questions one by one, responding with ease and composure. Most people could see how outstanding he was today. It's hard to believe this person is part of the American political scene. He was a prodigy from the start. Born into a family of lawyers, he was elected as a Florida state representative at the age of 28. By 34, he had already secured a seat as a state senator, becoming the youngest in Florida's history and the first of Cuban descent. At 39, he made a meteoric rise to become a U.S. senator, and by 43, he was already standing on the stage as a candidate for President of the United States. What's even more impressive is that when he made his breakthrough into the Senate, his opponent at the time was the sitting governor and a fellow party member. He was just a political newcomer, yet he managed to force this establishment heavyweight, the designated successor, out of the Republican Party and into running as an independent. With that, he turned the tables in one fell swoop. From that day on, Washington remembered this Cuban immigrant, a child born to a bartender and a hotel maid, a boy who came from a Miami immigrant family. People began to wonder how he step by step became the figure he is today, someone who has captured so much attention from the outside world. As the iron-fisted leader of foreign affairs, what kind of story is hidden in the family history he often recounts about escaping from Castro? In the next video, we'll talk about the rise to power of Javier Milei, the cold-faced, smiling general, and his story of success. Friends, please subscribe to True Perspective, and I'll tell you all about it in the next episode. If you enjoyed today's program, don't forget to give me a like. If you like this type of content, please leave a comment and let me know, because I want to present these authentic, original interviews to everyone as much as possible. That's why I've spent a lot of time on this. So please give me a like and leave a comment to interact with me. Your interaction can help my videos. The recommendation algorithm of the platform will help my videos reach a wider audience, and that counts as encouragement from all of you. All right, that's all for now. Thank you, friends, for watching today. We'll see each other again on Saturday on True Perspective. Don't miss it. Bye-bye.